Welcome back. This is Trevenchy, and we are here on a Week 6 reaction video going over all the major upsets and peer dominance that had occurred within the marquee matchups that we had last week. So, off the jump, I want to start it off with some Friday Night Lights because we have really been enjoying some CFB on Friday. It's been good games usually, and we're not going to really cater towards Oregon handling Michigan State because we know Oregon has the toughest test, number 3 versus number 2 this weekend against my Buckeyes. But some other good games that happened on Friday was Cuse versus UNLV. Really cool stuff to see UNLV battling back and responding to the adversity within the organization, with Matthew Sluka having a very sour departure from the program based on unfulfilled promises. But Syracuse Orange with the Kyle McCord, previously a Buckeye, but he comes in clutch in overtime, winning it 44-41. That was a very entertaining game, a lot of good offense, and reassuring to see that CFB isn't just about these cover 2 defensive games that keep everything low scoring. Another one that I absolutely loved was the Houston versus TCU game. Very sad to see TCU going downhill because the Houston Cougars have risen from the graveyard. They are no longer the doormat of the Big 12. They looked confident. They had a consistent running game. They had some good offensive play calls. And I think their defense was just too overwhelming for TCU's and what they wanted to do. Again, the only air raid offense in the Big 12 are the TCU Horned Frogs, and they may dominate some games, but they may not be able to be consistent. And so just seeing Josh Hoover throwing those bad interceptions here and there, but also feeding his wonderful targets, it's still good football to see when they're not turnover happy. I still love their wide receiver core. Honestly, probably a top 5 wide receiver core. Could be in CFB. Let's be real here. Jack Besh, Savion Williams, J.P. Richardson, those are all really talented guys. So, I'm not going to say they're on the tier of the Ohio State wide receiver core, but they have a really good wide receiver core. At least top 15. Okay, now we go off to your Saturday morning games. A little bit of a slower start for the Missouri Tigers. I'm so sorry, Mizzou. I've been one of your guys' outside fans. I've loved your guys' offense, your offensive play calls, your coaching. I stand by Brady Cook and the head coach and just seeing the vision. I know Luther Burden, LB3, is one of my favorite wide receivers to watch. But let's be real here. Mizzou goes for it on a 4th and 2, doesn't get their defensive pass interference call that they were expecting, and it all went downhill. The Connor Wigman from Texas A&M has stepped back up into his QB1 position after facing a little bit of injuries, and he showed that he is legit. It was just so cool to see how living College Station looked. There was so much life down there. It was cool seeing the military men playing the band and how committed everyone was in that college town. It was a really cool SEC atmosphere, and I just think Mizzou got a little too overwhelmed and they lost the lead too early. They shot themselves. I wouldn't say they shot themselves in the foot, but they shot any hope they had because just down 14-0 within the first 7 minutes and 30 seconds. It's hard to respond like that, and we've seen that time and time again. Whoever has the hotter start usually comes out with that winning outcome. So it was hard to see Mizzou go down, but it's all good. We love to see some more top 10 upsets, and Texas A&M with an easier SEC schedule the rest of the year, actually looking to potentially steal a CFP spot. Seriously, they could. I've already looked at their schedule down the road, and some of their harder games, hosting an LSU, hosting a Texas, that's it. You can do that. You can host those 2 really good alma mater SEC schools and those blue bloods. And again, Texas A&M, the last game of the week, that is a really good one. Sneaky one, actually. I think those might have CFP implications. Whoever wins that one will get a spot in the bracket. Okay, some other morning games that I absolutely loved was I'm not going to say I love them, but they're good stuff. Ole Miss handled against Florida State. We had Clemson handling against Florida State. Penn State, a little slower start, handling against UCLA. UCLA had their QB2 win. They looked a little competent. Don't think Penn State deserves their ranking, so to speak, but it is so early in the season that they will have to play their way into maintaining that ranking. So I'm not too worried about the Penn State Nittany Lions. I still see a lot of deficiencies within their offense, but I do think they have a good defense, and they usually do, right? Like, this is the classic Penn State team, but due to war on attrition, a lot of teams are losing. They are still undefeated, and of course you're going to give them that top. I think they're 6th right now. So surprisingly, Penn State is the 6th best team in the country. A little suspect, but we'll see again if they can compete with the Big Ten giants. Some other really good games that I liked. I really liked watching the SMU Louisville game. After I tuned out of Missouri, found myself watching that ACC matchup, and the SMU Southern Methodist team is actually pretty good this year. Like, no lie. You know, you didn't expect them to lose to BYU the way they did in a very close matchup in the beginning of the season, and I think it was around week 2. But ever since SMU has responded, they beat TCU. They just dominated against well, I wouldn't say dominated, but they fought. They got in a dogfight with Louisville in Louisville. And I loved Louisville's jerseys. I loved their home field icon. They had the little cardinal in a Heisman pose. That stuff was clean. I wish Lamar Jackson was there. But again, the Tyler show of Louisville Cardinals is of no longer. They dropped out of their rankings, and SMU is looking to potentially snag an ACC championship. I mean, we'll see what the contention is like. Of course, we'll get into the whole Cam Ward Miami College game day, and because it was a night game, but the Cal Bears play Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh handled against UNC this week. It would look like a little bit more competitive, but nonetheless, Pittsburgh's running back is just a monster. Like, he is the definition of a dual threat running back. So really loved seeing what Eli Holstein could do with his weapons, but more importantly, we got to see Pittsburgh be a good ACC team and to play Cal next week. That is really exciting. Again, my speculation originally was Miami is going to steal that ACC spot, but you never know what's going to happen. Miami could slip 1 or 2, fall out of the discussion. But again, that was a really good morning game in UNC Pitt and the SMU Louisville game. Some good little sneaky ACC matchups. It was actually more of an ACC morning, surprisingly. So, other than that, we have some very good midday games. I was watching the Oklahoma State versus West Virginia game predominantly. Reason why is because, Big 12 breakdown, want to see some more Oklahoma State football and lack of football. Let's be real here. West Virginia dominated time of possession, dominated trenches. Even when Garrett Green went out and their QB2 subbed in, they still were running tempo, and they had all the momentum in the world in Stillwater. And it's hard to see for that team in Oklahoma State just going downhill. They got no authority anymore. Originally projected to be one of the best Big 12 schools, and now they are looking like a doormat. Unfortunately, it is at the expense of Alan Bowman's inconsistencies, because no matter what, moot point or not, they got the talent. They have these skill players, Ollie Gordon, Strickland, Brennan Presley, good all-around skill players. But the problem is they have no identity and they have no distribution. So if you're not able to distribute the ball in a consistent way, similar to the whole Josh Hoover and TCU circumstance, in which he's distributing the ball but too inconsistent, and those interceptions are on time. But again, Alan Bowman struggles another week, and they drop another loss. West Virginia is looking to represent. They are a sneaky team in the Big 12 because they have an undefeated Big 12 record. So we'll definitely be watching West football. The Mountaineers But some other great games that I liked. Going back to the morning, I was shocked to see Boston College completely blow their lead. They blew an 18-point, or they allowed 18 points in the fourth quarter to Virginia, and Boston College falls out of the category of ACC contention. I think they are officially out of it, but we'll see. I mean, it was just more of keeping a third eye on the whole Bill O'Brien dynasty, and I think they just need 1 year under their belt, and then by next year they'll be a lot more legit. So I can't wait to see some more of BC football. Some good middays. Pretty much I was watching that Big 12 game, and my OHIO, my Buckeyes were playing the Hawkeyes. It was really cool. Battle of the Kais, right? The Hawkeye Buckeyes. You guys get the point, okay? The shoe was electric. You go to Ohio Stadium and you saw how lethal it can be to have a great stadium pulse. And, you know, it started off a little slower. You know, you're only up 7-0, and, you know, you're going into halftime, you know, with a little bit of speculation, or pessimism at least, but speculating that Iowa's going to keep this close. But in that second half, we got going. Jeremiah Smith got going, Trayvon Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins got going, and Will Howard distributed the ball. Didn't like his interception in the first half, didn't like some of the play calls by Chip Kelly in the first half, but Ohio State is back. They are now the number 2 team in the nation, and I cannot wait to see the hardest challenge they face this year in playing Oregon in Autzen Stadium. Cannot wait for that, but that is for the Week 7 preview video. We are to no avail bringing you any spoilers right now. Some other good games that I liked: Iowa State handled Baylor. It was a little closer during the game, but fourth quarter, the Cyclones ran away with it. Still don't know why they're the 11th best team in the nation, but they're about to play some hard schools, and we'll see if they are able to represent their name in the Big 12. So, Cyclones doing well. Washington handles against Michigan. Love to see a new arrived Big Ten school at least establishing a presence in the brand. You know, hosting a really suspect offense in Michigan. The Washington Huskies came through. They won in Seattle, and more excited for their games in the future to see if they can upset some other Big Ten schools. But right now they're in it. You know, they're still fighting. They're still a credible Big Ten school that maybe could get in that upper quarters, but we will see. And then another great game that I got to see was the Minnesota Golden Gophers clearing house, handling USC, beating the Trojans. Go to Minnesota, you go mess around and find out. We're not going to overvalue this away game because I know I loved it. I really did love it. But we have 2 SEC phenomenal away upsets that I wanted to really cover. But again, Minnesota handles in the fourth quarter. It was a very close game, and it looks like USC's trenches are not holding up in the Big Ten. You know, that is pretty much the testament of whether you can be consistent in that conference, is if you have good trenches play. So Minnesota sneaks that one out, responds really good after losing a bad game to Iowa. Didn't know if they were going to end up being the doormat of the Big Ten, but they're alive still. They're still alive. They may even get a bowl. So good for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Now, I'll do the quick Nebraska-Rutgers game. Good defensive game. Nebraska sneaks out with that win. That's what good teams do. You got to win the ugly games. You got to win and at least come out with that good outcome. There's no excuses to be made if you can't play the brand of football. You have to be multidimensional in college football, and not being able to have that air raid, high-scoring offense for Nebraska didn't really faze them. They played to the keys of the Rutgers team, and you know, you just love to see when teams are adaptive, and I love to see Nebraska. Like, I want to see Nebraska succeed. They're good. They're a good sneaky Big Ten school, and I think they could beat an SEC school if they were to get an SFP spot. So we'll see some more Huskers football this year. Some other good sneaky games until we get into the big upsets. Loved Florida responding, handling the battle of Gainesville and Orlando. They beat UCF in a dominant fashion. You know, you love to see it, right? You love to see some of these teams bounce back because sometimes you sympathize for them, you know? Like, everyone's talking about Florida's downhill. Now they're going to fire their coach, but, you know, they got all the talent, just no buy-in, and that's just a result of getting too devoted to transfer portals and the big names, and it just infers how important it is to establish an identity to build a culture. Really loved the Indiana game. I mean, they handled against Northwestern, and you know, IU is actually making a name for themselves. I put them in the category of Iowa State. Iowa State haven't played any competitive games yet within their conference, so they're still null to me. I don't put too much value into their records right now, but again, if you prove us wrong and you compete and provide winning outcomes, we got no choice but to respect you as football team. So definitely excited to see some more IU and Iowa State, whether they can remain consistent and make a name for themselves. Some other good sneaky games. Georgia handled Auburn. They had to bounce back. Can't wait for Georgia versus Texas in 2 weeks, but man, it's simple response. Like, you're gonna respond, right? Well, we're talking responses. Same goes for Alabama. You're supposed to respond, right? Well, in this 4:30 Classic in Nashville, Tennessee, the Vanderbilt Commandeers have upset the Alabama Crimson Tide in a 40-35 amazing game. I wouldn't even say it was at the expense of Jalen Milroe. He didn't play as bad, but wow, that is what college football is about. Upsets going into very, very effective stadium atmospheres. It was crazy to watch, honestly. I tuned in a little bit in the first half, was still a little hesitant because I saw that they're up 14-0, so I tuned in a little bit. But then by the second half, it was good football all around, and Vanderbilt was just moving those chains, winning on those weighty downs. That's just how you do it as a college football team. If you're the upset, you got to dominate time of possession. If there's a comparative advantage to the talent that your opponent has, you need to level the playing field. You need to keep the ball out of their hands. You need to establish the trenches, get the running game going, and capitalize on your good quarterback play. He doesn't have to be an all-star, he just has to be good enough. And that's exactly what Vanderbilt did. Same goes for Arkansas and Tennessee. Arkansas hosted Tennessee and knocked off the Nico Imialava. And Tennessee is no longer undefeated. I love it. I really do. I hate to see these SEC dominant teams that have easy schedules. No one's undefeated anymore in the SEC. Can't be more reassured. Hopefully, like I said, projected in the beginning, I had 3 SEC schools making it instead of 4. Had Mizzou. Looking like Mizzou might be falling out of that one unless they just go undefeated the rest of the season. But A&M just has that comparative advantage with their schedule. So I'm liking A&M. Tennessee, they might fall out now. They could lose to Alabama. We'll see that big game. I'm really excited to watch that. But as of right now, the Southeastern Conference of football does not have a dominant blue blood anymore. At least their record doesn't say that. Obviously, we know Georgia's legit and Bama's legit, but teams just prove that any given Saturday you can lose. I think Georgia obviously has a lot more dominance within their conference, but Bama slips up, and you got to capitalize on it. So, really love to see that. It was good football all around, and can't wait to see how they respond. They have a mediocre to hard schedule the rest of the season, but at that point, Bama's going to get a CFP spot. Like, you know that blue blood team is going to respond. They're going to battle it out the rest of the season. They're not gonna salt their wounds. They're just gonna admit their wrongdoings, and they're gonna provide So can't wait to see some more Bama football. I actually like this Bama football team a little bit more than years past, but maybe that was just of my frustration with Nick Saban just being the consistent dark horse. And Nick Saban's like the headless horseman. Like he was always winning, and you were always scared when you saw him. So it was like, bro. I'm glad Nick Saban's on College Gameday, jinxing his own program, and it was so funny to see Vanderbilt win. And they replayed his segment in which he said the only easy place to play in the SEC is Vanderbilt. So again, things come full circle when you say things like that. All right, now we'll go into some of the night games, some good night games on Saturday. We're gonna cover the College Gameday with Miami versus Cal. Wow, this one was late, bro. Phenomenal stuff, right? Cam Ward and Miami Hurricanes come back to win it 39-38 after trailing 24 points. They were down by a lot. Cal had a great start. Jaden Knott, love that running back. He's got to be on my top 10 running backs in the CFB, but yeah, Cal Bears couldn't handle. And I'm not worried about it. The Cal Bears get to play Pittsburgh, and they'll respond, and hopefully they can represent an ACC, and I would love to see that as an ACC championship. But as of right now, a lot that went into it was just playing in Berkeley and having that, that hard stadium pulse to play through. So can't wait to see some more. I mean, I guess I can wait to see some more ACC football. It's the bottom of the Power Fours, but they're still a good conference. They're still Power Four. I just want Miami to get it because I think that they have a better chance than any other school to at least knock off a team when it comes to December. But we go over to our favorite night game. We have the ASU Sun Devils hosting the Kansas Jayhawks. ASU coming out. Good responses here and there. Kansas had so much talent. There was definitely a comparative advantage with their skill players compared to ours. But nonetheless, battling through the officiating struggles, battling through the adversity, your ASU Sun Devils are now 4-1, 1-1 on conference play. And if they go in on Friday night hosting Utah and come out with a winning outcome, this team is legit. In my opinion, this team's legit. They'd have to be Cincinnati to probably earn that top 25 just because they'll probably find excuses for Utah losing on Friday as a AP poll committee. But no matter what, you can devalue us, the people that go nationally unspoken within the bottom two Power 4 conferences, sleep on us just like they're sleeping on Westlaw. Good for you guys, right? But the point of the matter is this. It's hard to win on Saturday. When you come out with a win and you beat a good college football team, a very talented team, it can't go unheard of, right? So ASU comes out with a needed win because if they would have lost that 3-2, 0-2 on Big 12 play, there was a lot of pessimism there. But we break even. The Sun Devils are now up 35-31, and they are in the top quarters of the Big 12 standings right now, hoping to sustain that. Then we had a very late game in the U of A versus Texas Tech game. Red Raiders and Taj Brooks established their run games. Lefty Tora McMillan getting his ball, getting his production, but nonetheless, the Texas Tech Red Raiders have established a consistent red zone defense, made the timely plays on offense, and this team is dangerous now. They are officially 3-0 on the Big 12 conference play. They might end up getting that number 1 spot. So, I'll see you guys soon, all right? This is the Week 6 game. Week 6 overview. Send in all the love, though, because we're slowly getting into some competitive games. But I think officially this weekend marks the halfway point for the college football season. So, again, testament to covering this energy. I'm so engaged. I love doing this, and I can't wait to make more content for you guys. Hoping to get some more player evals done because I love to cover and scout some guys for Sunday. But again, Forks Up, guys. Great ASU win. Very excited for the rest of the season, and make sure to watch more content from the 480 experience. Thanks for watching, guys.